Liliam. It ends in an M. Liliam Margarita, auxilio. Liliam Margarita Lopez.
And you go by Lily.
And go by Lily, yeah.
So Lily, where were you born?
I was born in El Vedado, Havana, Cuba.
Tell me a little bit about your family in Cuba. Where did your family come from? When did they arrive in Cuba? What do you know about before you?
My family was both, my mother and my father were both from Pinal del Rio. She was from the capital, Pinal del Rio, and he was from Viñales. But then when the Depression came, they lost their farm and whatever, so he ended up going to Havana when he was 13. He was a businessman. He studied accounting, but he liked more having businesses, so he had like 7 restaurants and coffee shops. So he was a self-made man. She met him in Havana, and then I was born in El Vedado, and then of course we had to come to Miami because of communism and Castro and all of that. He lost everything, so we came. I was born actually in the Castro regime, and my father stayed thinking that things were going to change. And when he saw that it didn't, he took years, by the way. It took him years because he was a patriot and he wanted to stay. And then he realized at the end that everything was lost and he had to start here from scratch. And I remember him having to do dishes in hotels in Miami Beach, then in New York. And then a funny story was that he fell in the snow when we were in New York. And he told my mother, "No estamos yendo de aquí. We're leaving," because he fell. And he was young. He was only like 39. And then he said, "When I saw two men carrying me and helping me, that I felt so bad." He said, no, I can't live in the snow. We're going back to Miami."
Did you? What was your immediate family like? Were you an only child? Do you have siblings?
I have an older brother and me. I'm the only girl, and then there's a boy. He's a boy, but he's older than me. So I took care of the parents, basically. Basically, you could tell by my face, I was in charge.
So I read that you came when you were about 3 years old, right?
Exactly.
So do you have any memories of Cuba?
I do remember the day that we left, my grandmother and everybody crying and all of that. That stays. That's the only thing that stays. And being in the airport and seeing people crying, which was the family of my father. And as a child, the things that you see, there's something wrong happening. You see that you're leaving, you see people crying, there's something wrong. So that's the only thing I have in my mind, people crying.
Um, you guys get here when you were 3. You told us a little bit, Miami, New York. Tell me a little bit about that. So you arrive when you're 3. Your family first comes to Miami and then goes to New York and then comes back.
Yes, exactly. We stayed at my aunt's house here for a while. Then my father had a friend that was cleaning, windows and stuff in New York. Imagine, like all Cuban Americans. So he said, "Come over here. I'll give you a room." He was renting rooms in an apartment, so it was in Broadway. So he was there, and then in the mornings he would do cleaning shoes, and then in the evenings he would wash dishes in hotels. But then again, the story was that once he slipped and fell, and someone had to help him in the snow, he said no. We told my mom, We're leaving to Miami. So that was just like a short time. He was like 9 months in New York City. He did not like it.
And you guys landed in Miami, so you grew up in Miami.
Then in Miami, exactly. Always in Miami.
What were some of those challenges for you and your family? That you remember. You're very young at this time. You're under 5 years old, so you know.
But I start remembering, of course.
But
You
tell me
remember.
some of those what are those challenges that you and your family kind of faced upon arriving here in the United States and settling in Miami?
Well, of course, being poor. As a child, you go to school, you're poor. And the rest of the people, like, I couldn't have a snow cone when I was in kindergarten because they couldn't afford it. And so that you always remember that I had to wear all these dresses that belonged to my cousin because they were doing better, and it was fine. But you're using used clothes, and then other kids pick at you and say, "Oh, you look old-fashioned." It's not old-fashioned; it's just that they're nice dresses, but they're past the season. They're not in style that much, but they were nice fabrics. And then it's difficult when you're a kid and you like a toy and you can only have one instead of 5 toys, and it's just that's why we value. As Cuban Americans, we value what you make and saving money and having a home. And when you buy stuff, you go into my closet, you see I have so many things, and I could use this again because you have that mentality. I have like 5 closets, and then people say, my husband says, you don't want to get rid of stuff? I say, no, because the fashion just changes, and then I'll be able to use this again. And it's that mentality of the Cuban refugee that you don't throw things out, which it stays in with you. You don't get to take care of it. And the toys, I have the toys still in my daughter's closet. The toys that my father bought me. Yet she doesn't have anything because she was born in the United States in abundance. So I will never throw those dolls. It hurts me. And it seems to some it may be like dumb or I don't know what, but it's taking space, but it means the world to me that he was, that we were poor and he was able to buy me some dolls, and they're there in my closet. Yeah, they are. They are.
How did your family adapt to living in the United States?
I think it was very difficult for my parents to adapt because they were doing well. They lived in Vedado, meaning they had their house. They had a house also in the beach, and having to start hear him doing the dishes, and my mom didn't know English. I mean, she understood it, but conversational English is a different story. Since she was a piano teacher, she was able to teach piano, and then that little extra income that she had was for to buy me stuff and my brother, and she taught me piano too. So of course, I had to learn piano for 8 years. But it was difficult. It was difficult for them because you had to start again, and we had to rent here and there until he was able to make more money, and then we could have our own home. But it was hard,
And what was that journey like? So it's obviously a rough start as immigrants
of course.
and refugees and going through tough times. When things started getting better for you as a family, where in South Florida, where in Miami, what part did you settle in, and what did your parents start to do?
Yes, we were like in the Southwest area, and I went to Shenandoah Elementary, Shenandoah Junior High. Um, Things got better because my father opened also a restaurant in downtown. It's called Los Cubanitos, of course, being Cuban. Los Cubanitos, the Cubans. And so we were able to go to Europe when I was like 10 or 11 years old, and things got better. But then there's a law, eminent domain law. So his landlord lost that property that he had. So everybody, there was like 6 or 7 businesses in that street, they had to vacate. So he had to start again. So we went back, meaning that we were doing better. We went back and he had to go back to, work as an employee. And then later he was able to save some money and then open another cafeteria, which is what he knew how to do. The batido, the shakes and the pan con lechon and la ropa vieja, no, the medianoche, Cuban, la frita cubana. He was a very good chef. He was good.
It's interesting. The eminent domain part is interesting because
It
here's
is.
Having left Cuba,
Right.
people lost property confiscated by the
Right.
government, and coming here, an eminent domain. How did that affect his view of America?
Well, yeah, exactly. The thing is that he was just like only renting, leasing, so that affected the owner, of course, but it affected him because here you are, you've been there like for 6 years, you're making, your livelihood and everything's coming well, and then suddenly te lo quitan, they take it away. So you feel, oh gosh, I'm like in Cuba, but it's the law here and whatever. But it was tough. It was tough because it's like starting again. It's like the same thing in Cuba. Here, it's illegal, but they can do it, but it happened. So it was tough for him. It was tough for all of us, actually, because we had to go back again and start. But we did it. He did it. And we passed through all of that. We passed, and it
Can
went
you
well.
tell me a little bit about what did your community look like back then at that time in this era?
The community was very nice because there were times where you could live with your door open. My mother had the door open all the time. We had no air conditioning, but there was a breeze. So she would play piano, da 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 da. There's a little porch. We would sit in the rocking chairs. Very typical Cuban American family. And there was no danger that you could have your door open. Nobody would rob you. There was no problem. So it was a nice time, and you would have your neighbors. And I think it was very typical, I guess, maybe of Cuba. Latin America, everybody in that area were Cuban Americans, the same status, like refugees from Cuba, immigrants, and people were friends with one another, saying hello, ¿cómo está, pa, pa, pa. It's not very Anglo, very, very Cuban American, very Hispanic. Knowing your neighbors, saying hello to them, waving, opening the door, giving them some coffee. That's how it was. So it's nice. It was nice.
What can you help me timestamp it? What era? What years are we talking?
That must have been maybe like what, 71, 72, 73. 74, 75, all of that time when I was a kid.
Early 70s. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you populated a world, as you described it. A community was very Cuban.
Very.
Now, but this is also a time that Miami is changing, and there's still a very large Anglo population.
Right.
There's still a minority. Did you recall facing any kind of particular prejudice or challenges being Cuban or Hispanic at this time?
No, not at that time. Believe it or not, no. Yeah, because I faced that later as a professional. But as a kid, no. I was always in school, and the teachers that were Anglo were very nice and very sweet to me. I even remember my kindergarten teacher. Extremely, extremely nice and trying to work with me and just learning English out of the blue. I mean, when you're a kid, you just hear it and you just speak the language. But I never faced any discrimination. And then the rest of all the students were Hispanics. There was like an invasion. There was like an invasion, and then all the teachers had all these kids are just speaking Spanish, and of course they learned English. But the teachers, I could say, all my teachers that were Anglo were very African American, Anglo. I mean, from New York, from here, from there, from Miami. They were extremely, extremely nice. I never felt anything.
Did you have a did you have a sense of being a first generation immigrant? Like, did you have this sense of like, I am a first generation American, even though you came at such a young age? Did you see yourself as different? What was your view of yourself, not
Mm.
in these young years, being a Cuban in the United States?
That's an interesting question. I never felt. I know we were immigrants, but I didn't feel that bad. I guess probably since we were surrounded by people that were just like us. So when you're surrounded with people that are just like you don't feel the difference. It's not as if you were in another state that everybody would speak English and you would like just speak English all the time. So for us, it just like, it was something natural. For me, it was like a natural transition because I don't remember much. So I felt like this is like my country, right? Like Southwest, the Southwest area, that was like a nation, right? Miami's like a country.
So tell me about your years in that country. Where did you go to school? Where your elementary, middle, high
Yeah,
school?
I went to Shenandoah Elementary. I went junior high. Then I did a couple years. I did private school. My mom put me for 3 years in private school. I didn't like it that much, and then I ended up in Miami High. That Miami High was already a little bit, it was a little rough. But if you were a good student and you were part of clubs and this and that, you had no problem either. But it was a big, very big school. There was a lot of, and everybody was Hispanic. And again, the teachers were very, very nice. I have to say, they heard Spanish all the time, English and Spanish all the time. But it was a fun time. It was a fun time because they would laugh with us and have a good time. So I have no complaints about my teachers. The Anglo teacher, African American teacher, everybody was great to us. I can say it's so funny. This is an interesting story. I remember there was a teacher. She was only like 28 years old. And then at that age, when you're like 16, 17, porque they would call the teachers la vieja. Que la vieja se está portando mal con nosotros, la vieja nos está poniendo de penitencia. And then she knew. Who's calling who vieja? And then everybody came, no, 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 no. She said, I'm 28 years old. It was so funny because she was young. But for us, we were 16. The teacher, we call all the teachers, porque la vieja. And that's wrong. But when you're in a group like that, they would use that word. Instead of the teacher, la vieja, nos mandó tal tarea. She gave us this type of homework. La vieja, and she said, who's calling me vieja? She knew already. So she hears a young American lady, knew already, what are they doing? Did you know the word vieja? And we all started to laugh. No, 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 we know you're young. We love you. We would say that to her. It was nice. It was cute. Yeah.
Where do you, when you're at Miami High, do you decide, okay, I'm going to go to college? Is it your parents are like, Lily, you're going to college? Tell us about what's that experience like after high school, what you wanted to do with your life?
My mom was a teacher and her mother was a teacher. My aunt was a teacher. So they were all educators. So there was no choice, of course. But I did want to go to college. So I did. I went to Miami-Dade College, North Campus, and I studied court reporting. And then I said, no, no, no. What the heck am I doing? I'm a communicator. This is when I went, I did my thing because I was very good. I graduated #1 in the class because my flexibility, because of piano. So I said, what the heck am I doing? I'm a communicator. I'm like a machine. You're a machine, basically. You're recording everybody. You're just writing. It's difficult, but at the same time, it wasn't for me. So I said, oh gosh. So I said, okay. I went back. Then I went back to get my bachelor's, and I did political science, and I also did journalism. Yeah,
So why political science and journalism?
because I wanted to be a lawyer. But then what happened? That my mom got very sick. She had COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. She suffered for 10 years, and she got very ill, and then she passed away. But she was sick she was ill for 10 years. So I wanted to be a lawyer, but when I finished my BA, she started to get ill. So I went to work for a nonprofit, which is Spanish American League Against Discrimination. It's SALAD as the acronym. And then there was Eduardo Soto, God bless his soul, he was a great man, and Dr. Eduardo Padron, who we all know, love and respect. So they sort of like taught me in salad how to do, press conferences and how to do all these campaigns for people to vote. And we did so much. And they would tell me, mijita, tú puedes hacerlo. And I would say, yo no puedo hacerlo. Sí, mijita, tú puedes hacerlo. They gave me all this confidence. Puedes hacer esto. Escríbeme el discurso. Write my speech. Su discurso. Tú puedes hacerlo, que tú hablas mucho y tú escribes muy bien. They would say that. And you know what? It's people like that that open the doors for you. So they helped me a lot. And then when my mom got very ill, then I stopped working. And then when she passed away, and then we started the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce with some friends who said there's a need for a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and you have nonprofit experience. And then I wasn't able to do the law thing that I wanted to do. But that's the way it is.
But you,
Life
yeah.
takes you where it wants you to go.
Now, did I read that you also did you also go to St. Thomas?
Yes.
University? Tell me
I
about
went
that.
to St. Thomas University. I love that university. Oh, that's my alma mater. They are the best. The classes were small. The teachers really loved you. They cared for you. So it was like a family. No one.
Only interruption of the day.
That's it.
Mhm.
Here, sorry.
Oh, don't worry.
Still.
We're at, top of the hour, so 4:02.
Okay. So St. Thomas University in the 1980s. Tell me about your experience there.
Right. Yes. I graduated in 1988. I studied political science. It's a small, not small university. I mean, the campus is gorgeous. It's just that the classes were like maybe 15, 18 kids. So it was great. You had that personal connection with your professor. And I graduated with a 4.0. I was very happy. I really enjoyed being a student at St. Thomas University. And that's why they had me in a commercial. I did a commercial for them because I've always stayed in touch with them. And they gave me a doctor honoris causa degree last year, exactly a year ago, in May of last year, just recognizing the philanthropic work that I've done as part of the foundation of the chamber.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you do right out of college is you go to write for Horizontes America.
Oh, yes. Oh, you have that. Oh,
So,
okay.
We did our research.
Wow.
So tell me about writing. What did you cover? As a recent grad, what were you doing? At
I
this point?
I was writing for a magazine in Dominican Republic as a correspondent because I like to write. I like journalism. I'm a communicator. So for me, that was such a good opportunity. Someone said you could be the correspondent and you could write articles about things that are happening in Miami because people in the Dominican Republic are interested in. Miami's always been in the limelight, even though now it's, wow, it's an amazing city. But even back then, people liked Miami a lot. So I was covering a lot of things, politics in Miami, if you will. That was a nice moment in my life.
From your life kind of naturally builds, and I think we're gonna jump around a little bit, and we've talked about some things, but we were talking about this before we even started. I said we're gonna say for one of the things you do, kind of continuing the communication route before we go into the chamber. I'd love to talk about your 10 years at WLRN. So tell me what you did there and how did that come to be?
I started first actually there's a program that's called Living in South Beach, at WLRN Cable Tap. They would provide an opportunity for nonprofit organizations. So that's how I started there. Through the nonprofit, through the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which at that time was called South Beach Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Right, because we started at South Beach because we didn't want to infringe upon other organizations. Being that I was younger and a woman, then here's when we come to the part that I start feeling the discrimination that I said I didn't feel it ever in school. But as a young woman starting a nonprofit, yes, then it started to affect that the name could not be South Florida, it had to be something else. So we decided to do South Beach Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. So there I was given an opportunity in WLRN to do a show, Living in South Beach, to talk about South Beach. That later became Panorama con Liliam López when the organization became South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in the year 2000, in the year 2000.
I want to kind of dig into that a little bit more. This idea that the discrimination you didn't face as a young person for being Cuban American, you faced it. Would you say you faced it more for being a woman, a Cuban American woman, both?
Both.
Tell me that.
A Hispanic woman, Cuban American woman. Well, still to the day, we know that discrimination still happens, and women slowly were getting there, but it was very difficult as a woman to be seen as a president and a CEO of an organization because at that time, every organization, all the presidents were of nonprofits were men. And many were Anglo men, some were Hispanic men, but unfortunately, there's, as I've seen through the years, men that make it, even if you're Hispanic and you make it up there, once you're up there, you think you're more Anglo or white than anybody else. So you integrate yourself and you forget about your roots, where you came from. So when you're a younger Hispanic woman and you're running an organization, men over here don't like it. Or if they like, they don't pay much. Maybe not that they don't like it, just that they don't take you seriously because the men are, they run the world. And I'm saying in a bad way because I have a lot of friends that always helped that were men. It's just the way it is, the way society is. Because the majority of the people that have always helped me have been men too. So there's a disconnect where white men help you so much, get to where you are, but then you reach a level when there's no more mobility up there.
And how do you deal with that? How did you deal with that?
You deal with that like working hard and not taking no for an answer, continue fighting and doing what you have to do, what is right. And then when you do it and you do it and you just keep at it and just doing a good job and doing what you have to do, then eventually there comes recognition, but it usually takes a very long time as opposed to if you're a male. You're an Anglo male, you have better chances. You're a Hispanic male, there's chances so long as you're integrated there and the powers that be. And so long as you are part of the group and of that group of men that belong to these organizations, because Hispanic organizations, or in this case, chambers of commerce, that are more Hispanic, are not as important or as relevant as organizations that are basically part of the establishment.
I wanna take a step back and talk a little bit about Salad, which you become the executive director of.
Yes.
And that really kind of propels you to
Yes,
the next level.
it
So
does.
tell me about that. You talked about Dr. Padron
And Dr. Soto,
and
Osvaldo
Dr.
Soto.
Soto's getting you in. Tell me about your work at the Spanish American League Against Discrimination and how that levels up to the next career jump.
Yes, what happens was that it was at a very important time when they were voting to have districts in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County, all the commissioners that we have, they used to be at large. So what happens? They were at large, so there wasn't Hispanic representation nor African American. So Dr. Soto, who was the chairman of SALAD, he said we need to organize something called a votaton, people to vote, register to vote, and at the same time we want to have districts. So that became like a very, very, in that time, it must have been 1992, 91, 92. It was very important to get people to vote. So they had me in charge of all of that. So we had teams of people in Publixes, in Winn-Dixies, in Sedanos, registering people to vote. So I was in charge of getting people from Salad and volunteers to have these tables and get the tables so that people would come and they would register and let them know. And Dr. Soto did a campaign one time that was called, he paid for airplanes in the beach that would say Miami Beach equals Hispanic discrimination. Because at that time, there was nobody no assistant attorneys, no assistant city managers, there was nobody who held a high position within the city of Miami Beach when they had like a lot of people that lived there were Hispanics. So that was a no, and I remember he did that, and I was the one in charge of handling the media and all of that. So imagine, that gave me visibility, number one, and number two, it gave me an opportunity to learn from them what it was like. So they did a big campaign with regard to that, and with other cities also. With city of, I think, Miami, they worked hard with elected officials and with the Equal Opportunity Employment agency. They did so much, him and Dr. Padron, and they had me doing everything. So I was like, going here and there. They would tell me, mijita, tienes que hacer esto. My little one, mijita, tienes que hacer. And I would follow them here and there, and I would be always very grateful to them for what they did. And that got me to realize that I like that. I like to be an activist and to, in the nicest sense of the word, obviously, but to get the passion stirred with the people and let them know that they have to do certain things in order to be considered and in order to be included.
And did you start as just an employee and then eventually became executive director, or you got hired as?
I got hired as executive director. Yes.
And how long were you at Salad?
I was there for 2 years because my mother ended up in the hospital and all of that. So, usually people from Cuba, it's not like, oh, let's get someone to take care of her. She did have someone, but I needed to be close because that's the way it was. That's the way it is. It needed to be close, and she had the lung disease, and she had like 11 surgeries. So it was difficult. So besides having a caregiver, I still needed to be there for all the surgeries and all the bad things that were happening to her. And that's when some friends of mine came to me and said, you know what, we have to start a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Nobody cares about us. We're all in Hispanic Affairs Committee. We're all sent to this small committee, and then there's no way. We have to do something about it. And you know what? They call me Miss Lily. Miss Lily, this is what we're going to do. You have experience. I've seen you in the radio and TV. You do so much. You can do this. I'll give you an office. I'll give you this and that, and you'll have time for your mother. So that's what happened. It's interesting. It's a different story, I guess.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah.
I think first, can you explain what a Chamber of Commerce does?
Well, a Chamber of Commerce promotes businesses, its members. So basically, you have to have members, and then members get together and they decide what they want to do, how they want to meet, if you want to have luncheons or breakfast, and that's how it works. And then to people to connect, because chambers of commerce are really what makes people connect and do business with one another. Because we don't, you don't look in the yellow pages. Oh, I want to do business with this guy or this lady. You have to know the person. So that's what we do. That's what chambers of commerce do. Besides advocating for a lot of things, exactly like Salad, we advocate for this and for that, for Hispanics to have opportunities, to be included in boards, there's a lot of things that chambers of commerce do, and we started a step at a time, of course.
So talk me through that. Talk me through the steps and how you managed to grow the chamber.
It was very difficult, but at the same time, it wasn't. So it's interesting because we always had a big following. So even I remember the first lunch, we had like 80 people, which is a lot if you think about it. It's a lot of people, for a first lunch. And we said we want to do things with kids. We want to speak out about Hispanic discrimination and be more involved, advocate for more Hispanics in government, more Hispanics in top positions. And it slowly just kept growing and growing, but it was very difficult. It was very hard. The only reason I stayed is because of that, because my mom needed me, and then she passed away like 4 or 5 years after we had started. And then it was a little bit too late to change because I liked it, and there was a need. We saw that there was a need, and it was growing. But needless to say, it was very difficult. It was very difficult.
How does the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce differ from other chambers of commerce? Like, how does it differ from the Greater Miami or the Miami-Dade County or?
Yeah, basically, we're all chambers of commerce, but we're more focused on the Hispanics. On Hispanic, you don't have to be Hispanic to participate because people always ask. You don't have to be Hispanic to participate, but we focus more on the Hispanic culture, on doing business the Hispanic way. So, for example, we'll have like an hour or 45 minutes of networking before any type of lunch or a conference, where we will have like some mojitos or something where people just network. Whereas if you go, which I've been to many organizations that are not really Hispanic, usually if they say it's noon, you bet it's noon. So you get there and you have to sit down. You only have an opportunity to network with the people in your table unless you get to 11, 11:30. And 11 for us, at like 11 in the morning, is like breakfast time. So that's why we don't do breakfast. We'll do luncheons. And then people won't arrive. Some arrive early, some arrive till 12:30. So then we'll start programs like 12:30, 12:40 till 2. Till 2. But you'll be out by 2 p.m. But it's important to have the networking because Hispanics like to network. They like to talk and have a good time, not just go to an event and immediately go to your seat. That's a big difference between Hispanics and maybe many organizations the networking is just a little bit longer, a little bit longer.
I wonder if you could tell me a little bit, like, what are some of the challenges? I mean, this is one of the longest running, most robust Hispanic chambers of commerce in the United States. What are some of the challenges?
One of them, not the first, because you have big ones. You have very big Hispanic chambers in LA. They're huge. LA and Houston. So we're probably one of the top 5. But the ones in LA and Texas are really, really big. And I've met them, and it's great organizations too.
So, what are some of the challenges running an organization of your size, the Chamber of Commerce of the size, and so respected, and maybe not the largest, but one of the top 5 largest? What are some of the challenges that come from doing that?
We're at 415.
Okay.
The challenges are always the members, providing the services to the members, having the events and providing them with the opportunities that they want and that they need. Growing the staff, we've been growing. We grew. Then during COVID we had to have less people. Now finally we have 6 and 1 part-timer, so it's like 7 employees. And these years after the pandemic have been really good to us because we started doing live events pretty soon after the pandemic, basically in fall of 2020. And what happened was that many of the small business men and women who wanted to be out and got tired of Zoom and they were Zoom fatigued, they came to our events. And even though they were smaller at that time, the people that came noticed that they liked it because there were no other chambers of commerce doing any events. It took 2 years when we were already, say, like in 2021, we gave an award to Adrian Arch, and it was a big lunch with 250 people in April of 2021. When you have other organizations that didn't open until 2022. So that means that there was an opportunity for many people who wanted to mingle and network to come to us and realize that they liked it and they stayed. So what happened was that we expanded our base of members. In 2022, we grew more. 2023, huge growth. Now 24, we're doing very, very well. And it's because of that. I'm sure that many businessmen and women figured, okay, I'm going to go because I can't be. Some people can't stay at home 2 years. We know what happened for their own sanity. We know how many people suffer from depression. So they came, we gave an opportunity, we set people separately, blah, 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 and then they just stayed. So we had our base, and we got a lot of people that had never been to our events. They liked it, and they stayed. So that's how we've grown so much in the last 2-3 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder, the chamber's now been around for almost 30 years or over 30?
It's going to be 30 in July. We celebrated the 30th anniversary in March because of the weather. That Miami, in the summer is so hot. And people are out and about. They take their vacation. So we did the 30th anniversary. Now in March, we honored Willie Chirino. And it was a nice event. We had like 600 people.
How do you think, when you look at the organization as a whole, right, across 3 decades, from what you started to from that first luncheon that had 80 people, to your 30th anniversary where you had 600 people, which is ginormous. How do you think the organization has changed in that time? What parts of it have changed and what parts have stayed the same?
Okay, the same has been the quality of the people. The members, and I have only good things to say about everybody because we have had so many. The members are so nice. The board of directors, the committees, everybody is so nice, and they all want to network, and everybody wants to advance in their careers, and they want to do business with other people. So everybody that come to events, they're so enthusiastic. I really can't say that there's been anything negative. Everything has been so nice and positive. Throughout these years, people want to network. They want to meet each other, and it's just really been something a steady growth, but steady, but slow, but slow.
And when you say that, so do you think overall it has stayed the same or has it evolved?
No, it's evolved.
What are the evolutions that you have seen?
The evolutions that we've seen is just that bigger companies come to us. Before it would be like at the beginning, the smaller companies, the ones that were Hispanic, or companies that were nice, because there's always a lot of nice people, a lot of Anglo companies that want to be part of a Hispanic chamber. But through the years, and you see more corporations seeing the value, being that the Miami-Dade County and South Florida in general is primarily Hispanic. Like 70% of our population in Miami-Dade County is of Hispanic descent. So that has been always very, very nice. The evolution has good sides, and the bad side is that still we got a way to go. You still have a lot of big companies, big corporate American companies, that still don't see that value because they see it as a Hispanic organization. So there, and it's not all companies, but I see that there's a lot of companies still that, at this day and age, still in Miami, knowing the value, they will, how could I word it? They will give you less than what they give to an Anglo Chamber of Commerce. And I see that. I still see that at this day and age. Even if the value that we have, what we can provide, could be the same, it's like a subtle message. You are less than, let me see what I have in my budget. And that's what I see. That's wrong.
How do you change that? How does that get changed?
I say it. I speak it when I have a chance. Oh, you try to circumvent. If there's someone says no, you try to meet someone within that large corporation to say yes. But there's some people that it's incredible that you still see this. You still see that they have no funds. Big companies here in Miami that support, and and probably their clientele, but it's probably Hispanic. And then there's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things happening. And even if we're the largest minority, you sometimes, we see less than other organizations because of being Hispanic. And I always say it's because of it's really our fault. People that have top positions within corporate America, that, like, again, they become more Anglo than any Anglo when they have a top position. But I always say to them, you have to be careful, because once you're not in that top position, who are you going to go to? And I'm not saying anything bad about Anglos at all. Absolutely not. I'm so appreciative to the United States for opening their arms. It's just probably they don't even notice, the big corporations, maybe their headquarters or somewhere else, they don't realize the importance in Miami-Dade County of being involved in a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because 70% of the population is Hispanic. So sometimes it's not the fault of the corporation, it's the fault of the leaders that are based here in Miami. The people in charge of multicultural departments, they are to blame. It's not, way where the headquarters are. It's the people that they place that are not doing what they have to do. It is.
What are I want to talk a little bit about the foundation arm, which is, remarkably, you've granted over $1 million in scholarships, I read, for disadvantaged students in Miami-Dade, particularly for those studying business and hospitality. Tell me why those focuses, and what's the aspirations of the program?
The hospitality came about because I realized, that was in 1995 or 96, I realized that, the number one industry in Miami-Dade County and Florida in general is hospitality. Everybody comes here because of the good weather, the beautiful beaches, the ambiance, everything. So I said, we always have to give back. And we started that just with $500 scholarships, like 6 or 7 of those, then $1,000 scholarships, then $5,000. Then we started a program, the Education Enrichment Program with Southwest Airlines, where we take students on a paid trip, and we partner with corporations in different states for them to speak to. I always ask these corporations to bring a Hispanic so they see that themselves reflected in these people, because many of these the kids are in paid lunch program. I request that they have to be in a paid lunch program, because if not, what's the purpose? You're not going to take a kid who's rich, goes to private school. You have to take someone who's needy, who's never even been on an airplane before, and we've had many of those kids that are crying in an airplane because they've never flown. So I try to get a Hispanic, like in Atlanta, and Coca-Cola, in San Francisco, in Facebook, Microsoft in Seattle, Boeing also in Seattle, Comcast in Philly, in New York, we've done Macy's, New York Life. I try to get someone who's Hispanic from multicultural markets, so that these kids see, when they have a full day of conversations and like workshops with them, that they see there's not an opportunity. Because when you see these kids in these schools, they don't think there's an opportunity. And I'll tell you one thing, there was one time when we were in San Antonio, there was a student, and the teacher told me, this student has a twin, and the twin is now in drugs. And I see the kid with a toothpick, and I said, why is there a kid here with a toothpick in the middle of a meeting in a nice university? And the thing is that he was like thinking he was cool. But there was a moment when there was I think the dean of the school, I don't know who we were with, because I'm talking 7 years ago or 8. she says, "How did you all feel when you won and you won the competition to come here?" And then she said, "Talk to me." There was a young man. "Talk to me. How did you feel?" So slowly, I saw that young man transition into the cool guy with a toothpick, into someone who started talking to her slowly and said, "Well, I never thought I was ever gonna win anything. And then when I was selected, I said, Miss Gregory, I won. I can't believe this. I can make it. In life, I'm gonna be successful." And you know what? Her and I, we looked at each other and I had like tears. I said, "Okay, finally. This happened." So this kid just needed a little bit of a push, right? Because, they're in an age where like 17, 18, and they may take a wrong path. So for him, that meant the world. I didn't know it until he said it. And for her, it was heartwarming just to see that this young boy, and especially she said his twin was taking the wrong path. So then you say, okay, so it's worth it. Because we're traveling, I'm doing this, I don't get paid for this. I get on an airplane, I'm not a chaperone. But at the same time, it's giving back, and you're making a difference. And a couple of years ago, we went to D.C., and this young man was crying in the airplane. And then he was so happy. He said, "I've never been anywhere." So he was in D.C., and we took him to several conferences. We took him to Congress, him and other 8 students. It was really nice. It's something nice that you give back.
It's interesting though.
Reflected in those other people that are also minorities.
Yeah,
I want someone who's minority to talk to them, because if not, that they don't know that there's an opportunity.
yeah. I wonder if you could even if take a step back. Oh, to the chamber. Like, what kind of businesses did you first see represented in the membership base to where it's grown now? Like, how has that changed from the position of just like Hispanics in business?
Oh, but there's a lot of Hispanics now, more than before. That's a big change. Even though we're talking 1994, there were Hispanics, but we had a lot of members that were small, tiny Hispanic businesses, and now there's huge. There's big, mid-sized businesses and large businesses, and you have people from Latin America also. They're Hispanic the same, and they're starting their own company. I was just in a Zoom call driving here. A company based out of Peru, another in Miami. So I've seen a big change, a very, very big change.
Um, we talked a little bit about this before. I wonder what do you think some of the stereotypes that Hispanic businesses have had faced and had to kind of defy in order? I mean, the Hispanic buying power is enormous. We know it.
Yes, it is, and we're loyal, right? We're loyalty to brands. Hispanics, they're the most loyal. You know that?
Yeah,
Hispanics
yeah.
are most loyal. I remember Mom used to say, "We have to use Colgate toothpaste." It was so difficult to get me out to go to Crest, because my husband uses Crest, and I remember we're so loyal. No, no, it's Colgate, Colgate. They would say Colgate, Colgate, and it's loyalty in the brand. But back to your question, I'm sorry.
No, I wonder what are some of the stereotypes that you've seen folks in the business community, yourself included, having to defy in order to succeed.
Well, as a woman, imagine Hispanic woman, it's been difficult because, hey, for women it's difficult in general always, and things are changing, but it's taking a lot of time. And look at corporate America, how many women serve on boards, on corporate boards? It's a very small percentage, but stereotypes, yeah, of being at that time I was young, so a young Hispanic woman, so they see, "Oh, esta chiquilla, esta muchacha, quién es?" So they don't see you as a potential leader or someone who could really take the bull by the horns and say, "This is what's going to be done," which we can do.
And
So there's stereotypes, of course, and for men as well. Yeah, a Hispanic man, este hombre hispano, yeah, like they like music, like this and that. No, le gusta la música, they like to drink. No, no, we're just normal people, regular people that want to make a living, have your family, basically do the same as other people in the world. But there are stereotypes, and you can't. But that's unavoidable. It's unavoidable.
And how have you seen it in this time, in the 30 years of the chamber, for example? You talked about defining stereotypes and the challenges of being a woman in the business space. How have you seen the role of Hispanic women and Cuban American women in particular change across those 30 years? Like, you were kind of going against the grain when you started, and where are we now?
Well, it's been a lot of years, so Can you ask that question again? Because it was too long. It was too long.
Sure. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
from when you started in the challenges, being a woman, a Cuban American woman, start a chamber of commerce and grow it to such a large one, in business in general, the involvement of Cuban American women, how have you seen that develop across the last several decades?
I think it's an evolution, and still, even if you get to a certain position and you're more respected or whatever, but you always have to continue doing, working harder, if you will. If you're a Hispanic woman, you have to really work harder to demonstrate and so for people to acknowledge the work as compared to if you're a man. It's always easier for a man to ask a fellow friend or whatever, oh, can you be a sponsor? Can you contribute to this cause for a scholarship and whatever? For a woman, it's harder when you request. If it's a man or a buddy, they'll give you that support. And I know it because I see it. If it's a man asking a man for a contribution within an organization, you get more funds as if it's a woman asking a man. And if it's a woman wanting to be in a top board versus a man and a Hispanic woman, you don't get that unless you really work around it, saying, I don't see that you have enough Hispanic representation, you don't have enough women. And when they see that you're outspoken, then people respect you. If you don't say that, nobody out of the goodness of their heart will say, oh, let's have Lily Lopez in that board. But it would be easy to say, oh, so-and-so is a man, we need him in that board. And you still see that. You still see that.
Has it gotten better?
It's gotten better. It's gotten better, but you have to fight. So all ladies paying attention here, you gotta fight. You gotta fight.
You are, board is a great kind of jumping off point to what I want to talk about, which is your role on board of directors. You've been on several boards in the world of philanthropy business. Tell me a little bit about your board involvements and your passions around that.
I serve in several boards. I serve in the Greater Miami Convention Visitors Bureau. I serve in the Adrian Arch Trust Board. I serve in the Beacon Council. I serve in the Commission on Women for the city of Miami Beach. I serve in a board that deals with, don't ask me why, it deals with this health disparities within Hispanic population at University of Miami and Vanderbilt University. And I always ask them, why do you have me in this board? I have no knowledge. I don't know anything about medicine. And it's so interesting because they say, because we need people like you, normal people, to read all these grant proposals so you could let us know your feeling. And I like that. And I like to be in that board. I've been in that board like for 4 or 5 years because you get to read about and learn about health disparities and you learn. So in reality, I'm giving back. And so that's a board that I really, really enjoy participating in.
And I wonder if, speaking about boards in the Adrian Arch Center, I wonder, and the Arch Center Trust Board, I wonder if you could talk to me about the role of the arts, for example.
Right, yeah. Very important. And we have a beautiful, the Adrian Arch Center, it's beautiful. I think it's number 2 in the nation. With regards to its size, its acoustics, and it's just beautiful. But we need to get more Hispanics. So you see me here trying, because sometimes people don't realize that they have so many programs. They have programs for schools, for low-income students, and they do so much in the community. And I'm glad to be in that board because I'm trying to be like a liaison within the Hispanic community and the theater and the Adrian Arch Center, because sometimes a lot of Hispanics, of course, go and participate. But there's a huge group of people that don't know that there's tickets that are reasonable. If you go online, they're reasonably priced. But sometimes people just think immediately, oh, that's too expensive. That's not for me. And it is not. It is not. It's open and available, and it's beautiful. So my mission there as a board member is to bring in, I want to help them bring in sponsors and bring in people to participate, because it's a beautiful thing that we have here in Miami-Dade County. And I want to send that message out to the Hispanic community, because what's happening to them is really sort of not directly what happened to us as Hispanic, not having Anglos with us, but the theater needs more Hispanics because 70% of the population is Hispanics. So I want to bring a lot of Hispanics to the theater because it's beautiful. The Arch Center. I call it the theater, but the Arch Center.
Your career is so varied. So I'm sure, forgive me for jumping around
No,
a
don't
little
worry.
bit, but how are we on time?
It's 4:30, so it's 4:35
Okay, great.
actually.
So I'd love to talk then a little bit about a business minute. We were talking again. We made the mistake of talking before, but tell me about what is a business minute with Lily Lopez and what you hope to do with it.
Yes, what happened was, like I said previously, I did the show Panorama con Lilian, living in South Beach, Panorama con Lilian Lopez for 10 years. And then during the pandemic, I started recording all these messages to the members. And then talking to Yendi Valdez, I remember that she was helping us. I was the chair of the Alzheimer's walk, imagine, during the pandemic. So the walk, there was no walks, we were raising money. And then I said, I've done TV, I'm sending messages, doing the things with the members, and I want to do like a show. And she gave me the idea. She said, oh, why don't you call it a business minute, Willie Lopez? And then so we started doing that, and we've been doing it for almost 5 years. Yeah, like 4 years, 4.5 years. Exactly. So it's a digital show once a month, and it's a sponsored show, and then we put it on all the platforms. So it was thanks to Jendi, the idea of the name, because I had been doing all these these messages like talking without having a name, and I had the Panorama con Liliam Lopez, and I had the living in South Beach and whatever. I said, what am I gonna say? And then she came up with the name.
I self-identified from the very beginning of our conversation as a communicator. You said I'm a communicator. And communication has changed so much, right? I think probably from when you started, but just even in the last few years, just like how we communicate, the channels in which we communicate.
It's true.
Tell me
It's
about
true.
how it's changed, and particularly from a business perspective, how do you encourage businesses to adapt to the changing in communication?
It has changed so much. I remember when we used to always watch the newscasts, los noticieros in Spanish, and those, in English, the ABC, this and that, and then Univision and Telemundo and all that. And things have evolved so much that unless they text you, not they text you, but you get a notification from them, you don't watch news. You get everything from your phone. So that's how it is. And if you don't adapt to that, then there's a problem. You have to adapt to that, and you have to be on social media, on LinkedIn. I have like 22,000 followers, and the organization has like 7,000, so it's like 28,000 followers. And the Instagram, even though I'm not that active there, but it's still like 3,000 followers. But you have to stay on top of all of that in order to reach all those friends and those businesses that are members, because there's pictures and they want to see themselves. So that's become in and of itself a job. So I have someone who does that for me, because it's become a job, yeah. But you have to do it, because that people will see you. They, oh, I see the organization, I see the Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber. Oh, they're rocking, they're doing this and that, because they see it. So it's incredible the way it's changed. And for businesses, they have to do that. If they don't do that, people don't see them that much, because now it's not going to a show on a TV. Before it used to be, oh, wow, I'm invited to a TV show. I'm invited to do something, just for a 5-minute segment. It was a big thing. Now they invite you, say, why? I don't think I want to go. It's unfortunate, but that's the case. That's the case. So everything is more digital. Everything is more the phone, and the phone is part of your life. So unfortunately, but fortunately, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Okay, that's fair.
But it works. But it works. Hey, if it works, you have to adapt yourself to change of times. Adaptation. If you don't adapt, you can't move forward. Mm-hmm.
You have been involved in a lot of advisory boards. You've been involved in in so many different areas. And one of the ones that was interesting to me was you are in the President's Council at FIU.
I love it.
And what does that work, and what does that mean to you?
I love it. And actually, we had an event yesterday. I love it. Even though I didn't go to FIU, I've been serving there for years. And sometimes I sponsor events like yesterday, because they do scholarships as well. And they meet every month, and you meet with your fellow President Council board members. And it's an opportunity to see what they do. It's such FIU is just an amazing institution, what they've done, how they've grown, the law school, their medical school. It's a pride and joy for us here, for all Miamians, to have a university like FIU. And I feel proud to serve in the President's Council and participate, because you get to network and meet other fellow President Council members as well. And at the same time, you give back, you help the students when you give back monetarily, in whatever way you can support. But it's really a great institution. So I feel I belong to. I'm part of a graduate of St. Thomas. So I'm a doctor honoris causa there. I'm a Hall of Fame at Miami-Dade College. So also a fan of Miami-Dade College. FIU, I didn't go to FIU, but I love FIU. I'm involved in the President's Council. So I love all these institutions, and they played a very significant role here in educating and giving degrees to all the people that have benefited from being here in Miami and going to, and UM, of course, UM as a member, U Health as well. So we work with them very, very close.
It's it ties in so much to what you were talking about earlier about coming from a long line of teachers
Mm,
and education being so important
It is.
to your family
It
and
is.
to you.
it is. It's important to everybody. And I always say, even to young kids, even if you don't want to have a 4-year degree or whatever, get a certificate for crying out loud. It's something, because nowadays you get a lot of students that say, I want to be an entrepreneur. But to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a certain set of skills. You need to know how to write. You need how to communicate, and you get that when you go to college. Don't think that high school provides all of that. You need more. But sometimes students don't, and you see it all in the media. Nowadays they say, well, you don't need there's a lot of people saying, well, you need a trade. Yeah, you need that. You could be an electrician, whatever, but you need a little bit of skills also so that you can communicate properly and run a business. So even if you have two-year degree, it's important. It's important to have some type of something as a backup that will teach you certain things that you're going to need as an entrepreneur. So I'm a strong fan of education. You need to have your degrees.
We have such a strong entrepreneurial class in Miami.
We do.
And such a strong entrepreneurial class among Cuban Americans and
Yes,
Hispanics in Miami.
yes.
Can you tell me a little bit? What do you think about? Why is that? Why are there so many Cuban American entrepreneurs?
You know, that's interesting. I say the same thing. Cuban Americans so entrepreneurial. I guess Cuba was such an advanced nation before Castro came in, when he took over the whole island of Cuba and he was a dictator. But everybody, there was an entrepreneurial spirit, and when I hear the stories, that there were so many people, there were so many businesses. It was like one of the top capitals of Latin America, besides Buenos Aires and Montevideo, Mexico City. Cuba was way up there. So I think we bring that. I don't know if it's from Spain, from our roots, but Cuban Americans are very entrepreneurial, and I'm very proud of my roots. And I don't know if I could say this. I know we're recording, and I don't know when this will air, but the fact that yesterday or the day before, the Secretary of the Navy was here, and he's Cuban American. We were invited to a private lunch with him, only 8 of us, and to see, wow, a Cuban American. He's Cuban, actually. And then we met with a Rear Admiral who's stationed in Japan in the Pacific Ocean. He's Cuban American. And just to see that, you say, wow, not only entrepreneurs, but Cubans are really, and we have 2 senators, and we have so many members of Congress. It's been a nice group of immigrants coming here from another nation. It's very, I mean, you feel proud, right, to be a Cuban. Very proud.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I want I've been asking everyone this, and I would love for you to tell me, what do you think? What has been your proudest professional accomplishment, or your greatest professional success, and what has been your greatest professional failure?
Greatest professional success has been, greatest professional success has been to lead this organization to where it is today, with over 1,600 members, and just to see that every 3 to 4 weeks we have different conferences, different type of activities for the membership, and with 300 to 350 and 400 people. And just that tells you that people like the programs that we have, the services that we provide. They like the opportunity that we provide of networking, because we all know that networking is vital. You need to know people in order to expand if you have a business, your business to grow, but even if you're an executive and you work for someone else, you need to bring that other entrepreneur the business too. So providing that platform gives me a lot of satisfaction to think that it was started from scratch, and nowadays it's something big and important, and people come to me and say, oh, wow, we love it, we want to come back. And other people say, oh, we've heard so much about the South Florida Hispanic Chamber, we want to become a member. So I think that's an accomplishment, and it gives me satisfaction.
And has there been a professional failure that you've learned a lot from?
A failure. don't
Or a hard
know.
lesson?
Hard lesson? I don't know. I don't take no for an answer. That's my thing in life, my motto. Don't take no for an answer. You have to continue and not, if you see someone that says, no, this is not possible, you have to try to work around it. So maybe because I'm positive, but failure, gosh. No, I don't think so. No failure, no. Everything has been, look, step at a time, step at a time. Everything is step at a time, but you have to dream big and move forward and bring in the people that you know are good to work with, not only professionally in your office, but the members and the board of directors and the people that are the strongest advocates and supporters.
I
Step at
wonder
a
if
time.
you talked about early on about mentors and folks who mentored you and said, "Muchachita, you can do this. I believe in you."
I do that too.
Tell me about that. Tell me about how you have now become a mentor.
Yes, I have become a mentor many years. Now I'm mentoring a student who's a paid intern, and she's 23. And I teach her, you can't do this, you have to do that, ta 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 ta. She shadows me, and she looks at my emails and all my messages, and but she's smart. And but the other day we were with the rear admiral, and she's supposed to be like video doing videos of me. She went and grabbed her most important thing was a plate of food. And I went to her and said, no, 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 the food is not the important thing here. The important thing is here that you have to record me with the vice admiral. Rear admiral, which is more important. You have to record me, and my chairman of the board, Jose Perez de Corcho. You have to record us. Then you eat. So you're teaching them. Remember, that's the most important thing, not the plate of food. You got to do your job. And then she did, immediately she said, oh my God, and I did the recording and this and that. And look, it came out so good, and it did come out good. And I said, you see, you're doing a great job. But you have to, that's a way of mentoring, of teaching. Because if you say everything's good, you're not teaching. And that's, I remember Dr. Soto and Dr. Padron in an event one time, they came to me and they said, no, 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 muchachita, tú tienes que estar aquí. You have to be here. Here in registration, you have to be, because sometimes people don't like registration. And I was one of them. Like I tell some of my girls, hey, registration is important. You got to be who comes in, who's important. Did you check them in? So they told me, you have to be here. Because I used to be the butterfly that wanted to be talking. No, 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 my job was over there. You got to check people in and see who they are and let me know who already came in. And I'll never forget that. So that's important. You have to mentor, you have to teach the younger generations. Because everybody, she wanted to eat. Why not? Of course she wanted to eat. The food was good. No, no, ven acá, tú tienes que venir para acá aunque te fríe la comida. But it's like that, right? That's the way you mentor, you teach. And then sometimes you gotta get upset too. You gotta get upset with members of your team and of your staff and teach them. But you know why? You teach them, you get upset because you care for them. If everything were perfect, if you would say everything's perfect, it's not, you're not teaching them, you're not doing them a favor. It's just I expect someone to tell me, Lily, you know what? You gotta improve here. Whatever, it's okay, tell me. And I tell my team also, hey, you got to do this. Remember, you got to follow up. You can't leave immediately. You can't get here at 9:15, 9:30. It's 9 to 5. Working hours is 9 to 5. Just because I love you doesn't mean you can be here at 9:30. Right? You got to teach, because if not, you don't do that. Hey, if I'm not here, you go to another job, you're going to learn the hard way.
You created and led such an important and well-respected organization. What do you think is the important skills for being a leader?
Discipline. You have to be disciplined, very, very disciplined, and you have to be perseverant. But that discipline, you have to have the discipline. If you don't have the discipline to do what you have to do, to wake up and do this and do that and go here and go there, you can't do it. Then you can't make it. You have to. And there's a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. I want to leave early." No, 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 no. Yesterday I was at an event, FIU, with the President's Council till like 9:30, 10 p.m. Today in the morning I had to be here again, like in the Gables, and then leave back to work and come back. Not everybody likes that. I know that there's a lot of people that don't like it, but you have to do it. If you don't have the discipline, then you're not fit for it to be a leader in a leadership position. You have to work long hours and like it and like what you do. If you like what you do, then it's not a job.
And my last question, because I think we're probably just about time. And I think my last question is: across 30 years, you've grown the chamber and shown and brought along with you businesses to see the importance of the Hispanic market and Hispanic businesses. Where do you see the role of Hispanics in business and Cuban Americans in business going in the next generation in this country?
Well, I see the role of Hispanic businesses and Hispanics in general growing tremendously, of course, as the largest minority in the United States. But what I do want to send a message is that they have to be united and they have to follow some type of lead because sometimes Hispanics are all scattered. Like African Americans, I commend them and I like the way they're always united. But Hispanics are not that united. They're not, they tend to scatter more around and accept to be part of other cultures. And I think that Hispanics should be united, very united. When you see people that they lose their language, how could you be a Fernandez, a Rodriguez, and not speak Spanish? And you see that, not in Miami that much, but I still see it now, the other generations, the third generations. And it's a language that you have to, it's your language, right? You have a last name that's Hispanic. You have to keep your roots. And that's important if you want, if you want to be, work together and elevate the profile of Hispanics to remember your roots, where you come from. I mean, embrace the nation that you're in and love the nation. Like I love the United States of America, but I always say I'm Cuban American. And it's important. You need to. When I travel other states, it's not like Miami, and you see people with, like I said, with these last names. I don't speak Spanish. They look. I mean, I don't want to say that you're profiling, but they have that Hispanic flavor. You look Hispanic. Your last name is Hispanic. And I don't speak Spanish. It's so important to keep your roots, right? To know where you come from. And I think that's a challenge. And I want to ask everybody, have your grandchildren speak Spanish. Hey, it's another language, for crying out loud. You go to Europe and people speak 3, 4 languages. That's important for the country to succeed, to have people that speak Spanish and to stick together. And at the same time, embrace the United States. We're happy to be here. We're happy to be in this country, and I'm very, very appreciative. Some people are not appreciative. You have to be appreciative. And I love this country, and I'm very, very proud to be a U.S. citizen and for what it's given me. I'm very, very grateful.